Right now, as you settle into stillness, somewhere on this planet, a seed is cracking open in darkness, pushing a pale root downward into soil it has never seen, reaching toward water it cannot possibly know is there. In the Amazon, a single tree is exhaling enough oxygen to fill 1,000 human lungs for a day. In the Arctic, a flower that waited frozen for 40,000 years has begun to bloom again. The plant kingdom never rests, never pauses, never stops its quiet work of building the world we inhabit. Tonight, we explore the science of botany, the study of these silent architects who invented the air we breathe long before anything with lungs existed. Plants are the patient engineers of all earthly life, and their secrets run deeper than most of us ever imagine. Welcome to Drowsy Discovery. Over the next 2 hours, over 100 gentle facts will unfold like leaves opening to morning light. There is nothing to memorize, nothing to remember. Just listen and let your mind drift. Have you ever wondered what a plant feels when sunlight touches its surface, or whether trees dream in their long winter sleep? You are not alone. If these gentle explorations help you rest, consider subscribing to our channel. Each new video plants another seed of wonder, and we grow this peaceful community together, one sleepy listener at a time. Take a slow breath now. Feel your chest rise and fall like a tide moving through you. Let your shoulders drop, your jaw soften. The plants outside your window are breathing too, in their own patient rhythm. Let that thought settle you. Let us begin. Plants have existed on Earth for at least 470 million years. Long before the first fish crawled onto land, long before insects took flight or dinosaurs left their footprints in ancient mud, green life had already begun its patient colonization of the continents, transforming barren rock into something that could sustain the riot of life that would eventually follow. The earliest plant ancestors were humble aquatic organisms, simple cells that learned to harness sunlight in shallow seas, but over hundreds of millions of years, their descendants grew bolder, creeping onto shores, developing structures to survive the harsh exposure to air and ultraviolet light, reshaping the very atmosphere they breathed. Every forest you have ever walked through, every meadow, every garden is a continuation of that ancient story. The green world is older than almost everything else that breathes. The first land plants were tiny and had no roots, leaves, or flowers. Imagine a world without trees, without grass, without the familiar shapes of leaves and petals we take for granted. Because when plants first ventured onto land, they were little more than thin green films clinging to damp rocks near the water's edge, absorbing what they needed directly through their surfaces without any of the specialized structures that modern plants possess. These pioneers had no vascular systems to transport water, no roots to anchor themselves into soil, no flowers to attract pollinators in a world where pollinators did not yet exist, just simple bodies doing the slow work of survival in an environment that was still utterly hostile to complex life. From these humble beginnings, over countless generations of gradual change, the entire diversity of the plant kingdom would eventually emerge. Simplicity held the blueprint for everything. Plants invented the process that created the oxygen in our atmosphere. The air you are breathing right now, with its life-giving oxygen that fills your lungs and feeds your cells, was manufactured by plants and their bacterial ancestors over billions of years, molecule by molecule, exhaled into an atmosphere that was once choking with gases that would poison any modern animal. Before photosynthesis evolved, Earth's air contained almost no free oxygen, and the first organisms to produce it were actually poisoning their own world, because oxygen was toxic to most early life forms that had evolved in its absence. This gradual transformation, sometimes called the Great Oxygenation Event, was the largest pollution event in planetary history, yet it made possible every creature that would later draw breath. We live in the exhalations of plants. Photosynthesis splits water molecules and releases oxygen as a byproduct. Deep within every leaf, in tiny compartments called chloroplasts, an ancient chemical reaction is taking place that powers almost all life on Earth, capturing the energy of sunlight and using it to tear apart water molecules, stealing their hydrogen atoms to build sugars while releasing the leftover oxygen atoms into the air. This process happens trillions of times every second across the planet, in every green surface, from the tallest rainforest canopy to the smallest blade of grass pushing through a crack in the pavement, a constant quiet exchange between light and matter that sustains the living world. The oxygen drifting from a single leaf is the same oxygen that will eventually find its way into someone's lungs, perhaps yours, completing a cycle that connects every breath to every photon of sunlight. Light becomes. A single large tree can produce enough oxygen for 4 people to breathe for a day. Standing in the presence of a mature oak or beech, you are standing beside what amounts to a living oxygen factory, its thousands of leaves working silently to release the gas that keeps your blood red and your thoughts clear, enough in a single day to sustain a small family through all their waking and sleeping hours. The exact amount varies with the season, the species, the health of the tree, and the intensity of the sunlight falling on its canopy, but the principle remains astonishing, that these rooted giants are constantly gifting the air with what we need most. Every park bench beneath a spreading tree, every shaded path through a forest, is also a place where the air is being quietly renewed. Trees breathe so that we can. Plants capture sunlight using a green pigment called chlorophyll. Inside every green cell sits a molecular antenna tuned to harvest the energy raining down from the sun, a pigment so elegantly designed by evolution that it can catch photons of light and channel their energy into chemical bonds that will eventually feed nearly every living thing on Earth. Chlorophyll molecules are arranged in clusters within the chloroplast membranes, positioned to absorb red and blue wavelengths most efficiently while bouncing back the green light that gives leaves their characteristic color, which means the green you see when you look at a plant is actually the light it chose not to use. This pigment is so central to life that variations of it appear in almost every photosynthetic organism, from towering redwoods to the algae floating invisibly in a pond. Green is the color of energy captured. Chlorophyll is green because it reflects green light and absorbs red and blue. When sunlight falls upon a leaf, the chlorophyll within acts as a selective filter, greedily absorbing the red and blue portions of the spectrum where photon energy is most useful for driving photosynthesis, while allowing green wavelengths to bounce away unused into the eyes of any creature watching, which is why forests and meadows and jungles all wear the same emerald uniform. It is a beautiful irony that the color we most associate with plants is actually the color they find least useful, the portion of the rainbow they reject and reflect back into the world, painting landscapes green as a mere side effect of their hunger for light. If chlorophyll absorbed all visible wavelengths equally, plants would appear black to our eyes. The world is green by accident. And within each leaf, invisible factories work through the hours of light. Some plants can photosynthesize even in the dim light of a forest floor. Beneath the dense canopy of a rainforest, where less than 2% of sunlight filters through the layers of leaves above, specialized shade-tolerant plants have evolved to survive on crumbs of light that would starve most other species, their cells packed with extra chloroplasts and their leaves spread wide and thin to catch every stray photon. These understory dwellers have become masters of efficiency, squeezing energy from conditions that seem impossibly dark to human eyes accustomed to open skies, growing slowly but persistently in the permanent twilight beneath their towering neighbors. Some have even developed leaves that shimmer with iridescent blues, a structural trick that helps scatter light toward their chloroplasts from multiple angles. Life finds ways in the shadows. Plants convert carbon dioxide and water into sugar, their primary food. Unlike animals that must hunt or forage for their meals, plants manufacture their own food from the simplest of ingredients, pulling carbon dioxide from the air through tiny pores in their leaves and drawing water up from the soil through their roots, then using the energy of sunlight to weld these raw materials into glucose, a sugar that stores energy in its chemical bonds like a battery waiting to be discharged. This sugar fuels every process within the plant, from the unfurling of new leaves to the growth of roots pushing deeper into darkness. And what the plant does not use immediately, it stores as starch or converts into the structural materials that build its stems and trunks. Every wooden beam, every cotton thread, every page of every book began as carbon dioxide floating invisibly through the air. Plants eat sunlight and breathe in what we breathe out. The oxygen you are breathing right now was once part of a water molecule inside a plant. Consider for a moment the air entering your lungs, those oxygen molecules that are keeping you alive right now as you listen, and think about where they came from, because each one was once bonded to hydrogen atoms in a water molecule that a plant drew up through its roots, perhaps from a raindrop that fell on a forest somewhere, before photosynthesis cracked that water apart and released the oxygen into the sky. The oxygen you breathe has cycled through countless leaves over millions of years, absorbed and released again and again, passing through the green tissues of ferns and conifers and flowering plants across the ages, until this particular collection of molecules found its way into this room and into your chest. Right now, as you breathe, you are completing a transaction that began inside a leaf. Every breath is borrowed from plants. Plants produce about 70% of the oxygen in our atmosphere. Every breath you take is a gift from the green world, because approximately 70% of the oxygen drifting through our atmosphere originates from plants on land, the vast forests blanketing continents, the prairies rippling with grass, the mosses clinging to rocks in damp hollows, all of them quietly exhaling the gas that keeps our blood alive. Through the ancient chemistry of photosynthesis, chlorophyll-rich leaves capture sunlight and split water molecules apart, releasing oxygen as a gentle byproduct of their sugar-making labors. This continuous outpouring has accumulated over billions of years, transforming what was once a choking atmosphere of carbon dioxide into the breathable air that cradles every creature today. Without terrestrial plants, our skies would be starved of the oxygen mammals and birds require, and the gentle rustling of leaves overhead reminds us that existence itself hangs upon the quiet work of green things turning light into life. Each forest is a breathing lung. Phytoplankton in the oceans contribute most of the remaining atmospheric oxygen. Drifting in the sunlit upper layers of every ocean, microscopic organisms called phytoplankton perform photosynthesis just as land plants do, and together they produce most of the remaining 30% of Earth's oxygen supply that forests do not provide. These tiny beings, often no larger than a single cell, float in unimaginable numbers across the seas, their populations so vast that from space the oceans sometimes bloom green with their presence. Unlike trees, phytoplankton live only days or weeks, yet their collective breath sustains the entire planet, releasing oxygen that rises from wave crests into the atmosphere above. They form the foundation of marine food webs, feeding the smallest fish and eventually the greatest whales, yet their most profound gift is invisible, the steady exhalation that keeps distant continents breathable. When you inhale beside a window far from any shore, know that some of that oxygen began in the sea. The ocean breathes for all of us. Without plants, complex animal life could never have evolved on Earth. Long before any creature crawled upon the land or swam with purpose through primordial seas, cyanobacteria and their descendants began the slow transformation of Earth's atmosphere by releasing oxygen through photosynthesis. And without this botanical revolution, complex animal life would have been physically impossible. Animals require oxygen to power their cells, to fuel muscles, brains, and beating hearts, and that oxygen did not exist in any meaningful concentration until photosynthetic organisms spent billions of years exhaling it into the sky. Plants therefore did not merely prepare a suitable environment for animals. They created the very chemistry upon which animal existence depends, assembling the atmospheric conditions that would one day allow lungs and gills to function. Every heartbeat in your chest, every flicker of thought in your mind, traces its possibility back to ancient green ancestors that learned to harvest light. We are not separate from plants. We are their consequence, breathing what they give. Plants were greening the land for over 100 million years before the first dinosaurs appeared. When people imagine prehistoric landscapes, they often picture dinosaurs striding beneath towering trees, yet plants had already colonized the land and built complex ecosystems for over 100 million years before the first dinosaurs hatched. During the Silurian and Devonian periods, primitive plants crept from freshwater margins onto barren rock, slowly transforming lifeless terrain into forested continents that teemed with insects and early amphibians. By the time the earliest dinosaurs took their first steps in the Triassic period, lush fern glades and conifer forests already blanketed much of the planet, providing food, shelter, and the oxygen-rich air those young reptiles breathed. Plants were the patient pioneers that paved the way for all terrestrial animal empires, quietly building soils and shaping climates long before any famous creature left footprints in mud. The dinosaurs were latecomers to a party plants had been hosting for ages. Green life came first and always has. The oldest known individual plant is a bristlecone pine, over 5,000 years old. High in the White Mountains of California, where the air thins and snow scours the stone, bristlecone pines cling to life in conditions so harsh that their wood barely decays, and one individual named Methuselah has been counted at over 5,000 years of age, making it the oldest known single organism on Earth. This ancient tree was already old when the pyramids of Egypt were being raised, already weathered when Rome was founded, and it continues its quiet photosynthesis today as satellites orbit overhead. Its gnarled limbs and twisted bark bear witness to millennia of drought, ice storms, and shifting climates, yet it persists, adding ring after microscopic ring to its woody core each year. Such longevity challenges human notions of time, reminding us that some living beings measure existence not in decades, but in epochs. The bristlecone pine simply endures, patient and still. Let these ancient timescales settle over you like falling leaves. There is nothing to hold on to. Let your breath slow and feel how still the world can be. From the patient elders of the plant kingdom, we turn to the architecture within. Plant cells have rigid walls made of cellulose, unlike the flexible membranes of animal cells. If you could shrink yourself small enough to enter a plant cell, you would find yourself enclosed within a sturdy wall made of cellulose, a structural material that gives stems their stiffness, trunks their strength, and leaves the ability to stand upright against gravity and wind. Animal cells possess only soft, flexible membranes that allow them to change shape, squeezing through tight spaces and shifting to form muscles, but plant cells sacrifice that flexibility in exchange for architectural stability. The cellulose wall is woven from long chains of sugar molecules bonded together, forming fibers tougher than many metals by weight, and this material has allowed plants to grow tall without internal skeletons. Every wooden beam in every home, every sheet of paper you have ever touched, owes its existence to cellulose, the plant's quiet invention that humanity has borrowed endlessly. It is the scaffold of the green world, invisible yet everywhere. Cellulose is the most abundant organic compound on Earth. Of all the organic molecules that exist upon our planet, cellulose surpasses every other in sheer quantity, woven into the cell walls of every blade of grass, every leaf unfurling on a branch, every towering trunk rising through a rainforest canopy. Scientists estimate that plants produce roughly 100 billion tons of cellulose each year, an astonishing figure that dwarfs the total mass of all human construction combined. This material forms the backbone of terrestrial ecosystems, providing structure to plants while also becoming food for bacteria, fungi, and the insects that break down fallen logs on forest floors. Without cellulose, forests would collapse into formless heaps, meadows would lie flat upon the earth, and the cycling of carbon through living systems would grind to a halt. It is a humble molecule, built from simple sugars, yet it holds the entire green world upright. Cellulose is botany's quiet architecture. Plants can grow indefinitely because they retain stem cells throughout their lives. Unlike animals, whose bodies eventually reach a fixed adult size and stop expanding, plants possess specialized regions called meristems, where stem cells remain active throughout their entire existence, allowing perpetual growth that never truly ends. At the tips of roots and shoots, these clusters of undifferentiated cells divide endlessly, producing new root tissue to explore deeper soil, new branches to claim higher light, new leaves to capture more sun. A tree does not stop growing because it has reached maturity. It continues adding wood to its trunk, stretching its canopy wider as long as conditions permit. This capacity for indefinite growth explains why certain trees can live for thousands of years and reach heights exceeding 100 meters, because they never lose the cellular machinery that makes expansion possible. Animals seal their fate early, but plants remain forever young at their growing tips. Growth without end defines them. The largest single organism on Earth is a grove of quaking aspens connected by one root system. In the mountains of Utah, what appears to be a forest of over 40,000 quaking aspen trees is in fact a single organism, each trunk rising from a shared root network that makes them all genetically identical clones of one original seed. This organism, known as Pando, meaning I spread in Latin, covers more than 40 hectares and is considered the largest living thing on Earth by total mass. From above, the grove looks like any other stand of pale-barked aspens, leaves trembling silver in the breeze, yet beneath the soil lies an interconnected web of roots that has been sending up new trunks for perhaps tens of thousands of years. When one section of the grove dies, another portion thrives, and the whole continues its slow vegetative expansion across the mountainside. Pando reminds us that individuality is sometimes an illusion. One life can wear many faces. This aspen colony in Utah is called Pando and weighs over 6 million kilograms. When scientists attempted to weigh Pando, they estimated the combined mass of its trunks, branches, leaves, and sprawling root system at over 6 million kilograms, making this single clonal organism not only the largest, but also one of the heaviest living things ever measured on Earth. Its root system alone, hidden beneath the mountain soil, accounts for a significant portion of that weight. A subterranean network that stores nutrients, anchors the entire grove against storms, and sends up fresh shoots whenever an older trunk falls. To stand within Pando, is to stand inside a single being that has witnessed ice ages withdraw across the continent, that was already ancient when humans first crossed into the Americas, and that breathes today beneath the very sky you sleep under tonight. Such mass accumulated quietly, year by year, century by century, until it dwarfed the largest whales. One patient organism became a mountain of life. Trees communicate through underground fungal networks called the wood wide web. Beneath the forest floor lies an intricate web of fungal threads called mycorrhizae, thin white filaments that connect the roots of different trees and allow them to exchange nutrients, water, and even chemical warning signals in a subterranean communication network, sometimes nicknamed the wood wide web. Through these channels, a birch can share sugars with a neighboring fir, helping it survive a cloudy season, and an oak can send distress chemicals to warn its kin of incoming insects. The fungi receive sugars from the trees in return, making this partnership beneficial for all involved, a quiet commerce conducted entirely out of sight. This discovery has transformed how scientists understand forests, revealing them not as collections of competing individuals, but as interconnected communities where collaboration is the norm. The trees whisper to one another through roots and fungi. You walk above a conversation you cannot hear. Through these networks, mother trees send nutrients to their seedlings. Studies in old-growth forests have revealed that mature trees, often called mother trees, preferentially funnel nutrients through the fungal network to their own offspring, recognizing their kin among the many seedlings sprouting in the understory and ensuring they receive the sugars and minerals needed to survive. A mother tree may support dozens of seedlings simultaneously, maintaining chemical connections that persist for years, providing assistance whenever her offspring struggle in the shade. When a mother tree dies, she often releases a final pulse of nutrients into the network, a last gift that helps the next generation establish itself more firmly. This behavior suggests something close to care, a quiet parental investment that operates through chemistry rather than gesture. Forests are families beneath the surface, linked by silent bonds. No leaf falls without consequence. The roots beneath our feet hold secrets we are only beginning to understand. Roots can grow toward the sound of running water. Recent experiments have demonstrated that plant roots possess the ability to sense the vibrations caused by flowing water, bending their growth toward the source even when no moisture gradient exists, as if they can hear the stream calling to them from within the soil. Scientists placed seedlings in chambers where water flowed through enclosed pipes, and the roots consistently grew toward those pipes despite the absence of any leakage, proving that the plants were responding to sound rather than moisture alone. This capacity suggests that plants perceive their world in ways far more sophisticated than we once assumed, interpreting subtle mechanical signals to find the resources they need. How roots translate vibrations into growth direction remains a mystery being slowly unraveled in laboratories around the world. Plants listen in frequencies we overlook. Water sings, and roots follow. Some roots grow over 30 meters deep to find water in arid regions. In deserts and dry savannas, where surface water evaporates almost as quickly as it falls, certain plants have evolved root systems capable of plunging over 30 meters into the earth, piercing through layers of rock and sand until they reach groundwater reserves hidden far below the scorching surface. The shepherd's tree of the Kalahari holds the record for the deepest documented root, reaching nearly 70 meters underground, a silent journey downward that equals the height of a 20-story building. These roots grow centimeter by centimeter over many years, guided by subtle moisture gradients and gravitational cues, never stopping until they taste the water they seek. Such determination reveals that survival in harsh climates demands not strength above ground, but patience below. Roots teach us that persistence reaches what ambition cannot. Water waits for those who seek. The total length of a single rye plant's roots can exceed 600 kilometers. If you were to carefully extract every root hair and fine rootlet from a single rye plant and lay them end to end, the combined length would stretch over 600 kilometers, a distance greater than from London to Edinburgh, all produced by one humble grass in a single growing season. This extraordinary network allows the rye to explore enormous volumes of soil, seeking out water molecules and mineral nutrients scattered sparsely through the earth. Each fine root hair, thinner than a strand of spider silk, absorbs what it touches and passes it inward toward the stem, contributing to a collective effort conducted in total darkness beneath the surface. Such hidden complexity reveals that the visible plant is merely the tip of a vast underground architecture. We underestimate roots because we cannot see them. They are larger than our imagination. Root tips are among the most sensitive parts of any plant. The very tip of a growing root is packed with sensory cells that detect moisture gradients, gravity, touch, and even certain chemical signals released by neighboring plants or soil organisms, making it one of the most sensitive structures in the entire plant body. This sensitivity allows the root to navigate through complex soil environments, steering around obstacles, following water sources, and avoiding toxic patches while continually examining the terrain ahead. When a root tip encounters a stone, it bends away within hours. When it senses a pocket of nutrients, it proliferates new branches in that direction to harvest what it has found. This behavior resembles a kind of intelligence, though it operates through chemistry and growth rather than nerves and muscles. Root tips explore the earth like cautious fingers. They feel their way through the dark. Charles Darwin believed that root tips function like a plant's brain. Toward the end of his life, Charles Darwin turned his attention from animal evolution to the quiet movements of plants, and he concluded that the root tip behaves like the brain of a simple animal, receiving sensory impressions and directing the growth of the whole system accordingly. In his book on plant movement, Darwin described how root tips coordinate responses to light, gravity, moisture, and touch, arguing that this concentration of sensory power in such a small region was functionally equivalent to a primitive nervous center. Modern botanists continue to explore this idea, finding that root tips contain hormones, electrical signals, and communication pathways that echo the complexity of animal neurology. Whether plants truly think remains a philosophical question, but their roots undoubtedly decide. Darwin's intuition anticipated science by more than a century. The earth holds more minds than we suspect. Plants can sense gravity and always grow their roots downward. From the moment a seed germinates in darkness, the emerging root knows which way is down, sensing Earth's gravitational pull through specialized cells called statocytes that contain tiny starch-filled granules which settle toward the lowest point inside the cell. When the root is tilted, these granules shift, triggering chemical signals that cause the root tip to bend until it points downward again, ensuring that the plant anchors itself correctly and reaches toward the soil where water and minerals await. This gravitational sense, called gravitropism, operates continuously in every root on the planet, a universal orientation system that requires no eyes, no brain, and no thought. Even in complete darkness, a seed always knows which direction is Earth. Roots obey a silent compass. Down is always certain. Roots release chemicals that shape the community of microbes living around them. As roots push through soil, they continuously secrete a cocktail of sugars, amino acids, and organic acids called root exudates, which feeds certain beneficial bacteria and fungi while repelling or suppressing harmful microbes, effectively curating the community of organisms living in the narrow zone surrounding each root. These exudates can comprise up to 40% of a plant's total photosynthetic output, a massive investment that reveals how important this microbial recruitment is for the plant's survival and health. In return, the recruited microbes help the plant absorb nutrients, fight off pathogens, and tolerate drought, forming mutualistic relationships that both parties depend upon. The root is not merely a straw sucking up water, but an active participant in an ongoing negotiation with the soil ecosystem. Plants farm their microbes. The underground is a crowded marketplace. The rhizosphere is a hidden world of billions of organisms surrounding every root. Scientists call the thin layer of soil clinging to each root the rhizosphere, and within this microscopic realm live billions of bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and nematodes, all interacting with the plant and with one another in an ecosystem as complex as any coral reef. A single gram of rhizosphere soil can contain more organisms than there are humans on Earth, each species playing its role in nutrient cycling, disease suppression, or hormone production that affects the plant's growth and health. This hidden world operates largely unseen by human eyes, yet its health determines whether crops flourish or fail, whether forests regenerate or collapse, and whether ecosystems remain resilient in the face of change. When you walk across a meadow, you tread upon countless billions of lives quietly tending the roots beneath your feet. The soil teems with purpose. Nothing below is empty. Rising from the hidden world below, the stem carries life upward. Plant stems transport water from roots to leaves through tiny tubes called xylem. Within every stem runs a network of microscopic vessels called xylem, hollow tubes stacked end to end like a biological plumbing system, carrying water absorbed by roots upward toward the leaves where it is needed for photosynthesis and cooling. These xylem vessels are made of dead cells whose walls are reinforced with lignin, a tough polymer that prevents the tubes from collapsing under the negative pressure created when water evaporates from leaf surfaces high above the ground. The flow through xylem is continuous during daylight hours, a silent river ascending inside every tree trunk, vine, and herbaceous stem on the planet. Without this vascular architecture, tall plants would be impossible, and forests could never have risen to claim the skies. Xylem is the invention that allowed plants to conquer height. Water climbs invisibly through every green thing you see. Water can travel over 100 meters up, a giant redwood trunk against gravity. In the towering coast redwoods of California, water rises from roots embedded deep in foggy forest soil to leaves more than 100 meters above the ground, defying gravity in a feat of natural engineering that no human pump can match in elegance. This movement is driven not by muscular force, but by the cohesive properties of water molecules, which cling to one another so tightly that when one evaporates from a leaf, it pulls the next molecule upward in an unbroken chain, stretching all the way to the roots below. The entire column of water moves as a single continuous thread, held together by hydrogen bonds and drawn skyward by the sun's heat drying the leaves. Scientists call this process the cohesion tension mechanism, and it requires no fuel, no machinery, only physics and evaporation. The redwood drinks in silence. Gravity bows to chemistry. This movement is powered by evaporation from leaves, not by pumping. Unlike animals that use muscular hearts to push blood through their bodies, plants rely on a passive mechanism powered entirely by the sun, because evaporation from leaf surfaces creates a pulling force that draws water upward through xylem vessels without any biological pump involved. When water molecules escape from tiny pores called stomata into the dry air outside, they create a negative pressure that tugs on the water column below, and thanks to the strong hydrogen bonds between water molecules, this pulling force transmits all the way down to the roots. The hotter and drier the air, the faster water evaporates and the stronger the pull becomes, which explains why plants lose enormous quantities of water on sunny days. No energy is spent directly on transport. The sun does all the work by heating the air and drawing moisture outward. Sunlight is the pump. Leaves are the engine. The phloem carries sugars from leaves to every other part of the plant, while xylem carries water upward. Another vascular tissue called phloem transports the sugars produced by photosynthesis downward from leaves to roots, fruits, seeds, and every other part of the plant that cannot make its own food. Phloem consists of living cells connected through perforated end walls that allow sugary sap to flow freely from regions of production to regions of consumption. A growing fruit demands enormous quantities of sugar, and phloem delivers it continuously until the fruit ripens. A root storing starch for winter receives its supply the same way. This two-way traffic of water rising and sugars descending happens simultaneously within every stem, two parallel systems of tubes winding around each other like infrastructure corridors in a living building. Phloem is how trees feed their roots. The forest is built on sweetness flowing downward. Bark is dead tissue that protects the living layers beneath. The rough outer layer you touch when you place your palm against a tree trunk is bark, a covering of dead cells that shields the living tissues inside from fire, insects, disease, drought, and mechanical damage, acting as armor for the vulnerable cambium layer that produces new wood and phloem each year. As the tree grows outward, older bark cracks and sloughs off while new bark forms beneath, constantly replacing itself throughout the tree's long life. Different species produce distinctive bark textures, from the paper-thin peeling of birches to the deeply furrowed armor of ancient oaks, each pattern shaped by evolutionary pressures specific to that tree's habitat. Beneath this dead protective covering, the cambium hums with cell division, generating growth ring after growth ring, but it remains safe only because bark stands between it and the world. Trees wear their death on the outside. Life hides within. Growth rings in a tree trunk record years of climate history. Every year in temperate climates, a tree adds a new layer of wood beneath its bark, and because growth is faster in spring when moisture and light are abundant and slower in summer when resources tighten. Each annual layer appears as a distinct ring when the trunk is cut, allowing scientists to count the rings and determine the tree's exact age. More than just calendars, these rings record environmental conditions, with wide rings indicating good growing years, with ample rain and narrow rings revealing droughts, cold snaps, or other stresses that slowed growth. Dendrochronologists, the scientists who study tree rings, have reconstructed climate histories stretching back thousands of years by comparing overlapping ring sequences from living trees, dead timber, and even ancient beams preserved in archaeological sites. Every ring tells a story of weather and season. Trees remember what the sky forgets. Some tropical trees have no growth rings because they grow year-round. In the constant warmth and humidity of tropical rainforests, where seasons blur into one endless summer, many trees grow continuously throughout the year without the stop-and-start rhythm that produces visible growth rings in temperate species, making their trunks appear uniform when cut. Without a cold winter or dry season to halt growth and create a boundary, the wood forms in an uninterrupted flow that reveals no annual markers to the naked eye. This poses challenges for scientists trying to age tropical trees, since the familiar ring-counting technique fails entirely, and alternative methods involving radiocarbon dating or chemical analysis must be used instead. The absence of rings reflects an environment of perpetual plenty, where trees never need to pause their growth to survive a hostile season. Tropical forests live in endless summer. Time leaves no mark on their wood. And at the tips of branches, leaves unfold to greet the light. Leaves are designed to maximize light capture while minimizing water loss. The flat, thin shape of most leaves represents an evolutionary compromise between capturing as much sunlight as possible for photosynthesis and limiting the surface area exposed to drying winds and hot sun. Because every leaf is simultaneously a solar panel harvesting energy and a window through which precious water constantly escapes. This design dilemma has driven extraordinary diversity in leaf forms, from the broad fans of tropical palms that bathe in humid air to the needle-like leaves of pines that conserve moisture in frigid, drying mountain winds. Internal tissues are organized with chlorophyll-packed cells near the upper surface where light is brightest, while the lower surface contains most of the stomata that release oxygen and take in carbon dioxide. Every leaf shape solves a local puzzle of climate and competition. Form follows sunlight, structure answers the environment. Stomata are tiny pores on leaves that open and close to exchange gases. Scattered across the surface of every leaf are microscopic pores called stomata, each one flanked by a pair of guard cells that can swell or shrink to open and close the gap, controlling the exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen between the leaf interior and the atmosphere beyond. When stomata open, carbon dioxide diffuses in for photosynthesis, but water vapor simultaneously escapes, placing the plant in a constant dilemma between feeding itself and drying out. Guard cells sense light intensity, humidity, carbon dioxide concentration, and internal water pressure, integrating all these signals to adjust stomatal openings moment by moment throughout the day. At night, when photosynthesis halts, stomata close tightly to conserve moisture until dawn calls them open again. Leaves breathe through these invisible mouths. Every pore is a gate between worlds. A single leaf can have hundreds of thousands of stomata. Depending on species and leaf size, a single leaf may contain anywhere from 10,000 to over 1 million stomata, each barely visible without a microscope. Yet together they account for the vast majority of gas exchange and water loss that determines the plant's ability to photosynthesize and survive. The undersides of leaves typically bear the highest density because shading from direct sun helps reduce water loss when these pores open to admit carbon dioxide. This immense number of openings ensures that even when some close due to local drying or heat stress, others remain open to continue feeding the plant. If you could see all the stomata on a single oak tree opening at dawn, it would look like millions of tiny mouths gasping at the morning air. Each pore is a doorway. The leaf breathes through 1,000 gates. As you rest here, imagine your own breath as gently as a leaf opening its pores to the air. There is nothing to do but breathe and drift. Plants lose over 90% of the water they absorb through transpiration. For every gram of tissue a plant builds, it typically loses several hundred grams of water to the atmosphere through transpiration, meaning that over 90% of all water absorbed by roots escapes through leaves without being used for growth or photosynthesis. This extravagant water loss is not a design flaw, but an unavoidable consequence of opening stomata to capture carbon dioxide, since the same pores that admit gas also release moisture into the drier air outside. A large tree can transpire hundreds of liters on a single hot day, drawing groundwater up through its trunk and releasing it as invisible vapor that rises to join clouds. This constant exhalation keeps leaves cool, maintains the flow of nutrients from roots, and drives the entire hydraulic system that makes plant life possible. Plants pay a water tax for every breath. Most of what they drink evaporates away. Transpiration from forests creates clouds and influences regional rainfall. When billions of leaves exhale water vapor simultaneously, the cumulative effect becomes powerful enough to shape weather patterns. Because this moisture rises into the atmosphere, condenses into clouds, and eventually falls again as rain, often hundreds of kilometers from the forest that released it. Scientists call this phenomenon the biotic pump, and it explains why continental interiors with intact forests receive far more rainfall than deforested regions at similar latitudes. The Amazon rainforest, for example, recycles so much moisture through transpiration that it effectively generates much of its own rainfall, and clearing portions of that forest has been linked to droughts both locally and in distant agricultural regions. Forests are not merely passive recipients of rain, they actively summon it from the sky through their collective breath. Trees make clouds. The rain is partly a gift from the leaves. Some leaves are covered in tiny hairs that trap moisture from fog. In coastal deserts and cloud forests, where rain rarely falls but mist rolls through regularly, certain plants have evolved leaves coated in dense mats of tiny hairs called trichomes that intercept fog droplets and channel the captured water downward to the soil at their roots. The Namib desert grass in southern Africa perfects this technique, harvesting enough fog moisture to survive where other plants would perish from thirst. Similarly, the redwood trees of California's foggy coast rely on fog drip to supplement their water supply, especially during dry summer months when ocean mist is more reliable than rain. These hairy surfaces work like fine nets cast into the air, catching what invisible currents carry past and converting atmospheric humidity into liquid sustenance. Some plants drink directly from clouds. The air itself becomes their rain. Leaves change color in autumn because chlorophyll breaks down, revealing hidden pigments. Throughout spring and summer, chlorophyll dominates leaves with deep green, but as autumn days shorten and temperatures drop, trees begin withdrawing valuable nutrients from their leaves before shedding them. And as the chlorophyll molecules break down during this retrieval process, they unmask yellow and orange pigments called carotenoids that were present all along but hidden beneath the green. These carotenoids are accessory pigments that help capture light energy for photosynthesis, and they persist longer than chlorophyll because they are more chemically stable, revealing themselves only when the green fades. The golden yellows of birches and aspens, the soft oranges of certain maples, all were hiding in plain sight throughout the growing season, waiting for chlorophyll to step aside. Autumn color is not a new creation. It is simply what remains when green departs. The brilliant reds of autumn leaves are actually made fresh each year, while yellows and oranges emerge from pigments that existed all summer. The vivid reds and purples that blaze through autumn forests come from anthocyanins, pigments synthesized anew each fall as daylight hours shorten and nights grow cool. Scientists once puzzled over why trees would invest precious energy producing these red pigments just as they are about to shed their leaves, and current theories suggest that anthocyanins protect leaf cells from sun damage during the final stages of nutrient withdrawal, allowing the tree to recover more nitrogen and phosphorus before letting each leaf fall. Bright sunny days combined with cold nights create the ideal conditions for anthocyanin production, which explains why autumn color varies dramatically from year to year depending on weather. Red is a last act of effort. The tree paints its farewell in freshly mixed pigment. Beyond the leaves, flowers emerge in colors we cannot always see. Flowers evolved to attract pollinators, not to please human eyes. The spectacular colors, intricate shapes, and intoxicating fragrances of flowers represent millions of years of evolution aimed at luring insects, birds, bats, and other pollinators to carry pollen between plants, ensuring genetic diversity and successful reproduction in a world where plants cannot walk to find mates. Every petal pattern, every scent molecule, every drop of sugary nectar is an advertisement crafted to appeal to specific pollinators, whether a hovering hummingbird seeking red tubular blooms or a nocturnal moth following the perfume of white night-blooming flowers. Humans happen to find many of these signals beautiful, but our aesthetic pleasure is incidental to purposes far older than our species. Flowers spoke to insects for 100 million years before any human noticed their charm. Beauty is a conversation we overhear. The flowers were never talking to us. The first flowers appeared around 140 million years ago. For most of plant history, there were no flowers at all. Conifers, ferns, and other ancient lineages dominated the land until, in the Cretaceous period around 140 million years ago, the first flowering plants emerged and began their explosive conquest of Earth's ecosystems. What drove this sudden innovation remains debated, but flowers offered a profound advantage. They harnessed animals to transport pollen, ensuring gene flow across distances that wind pollination could never reliably achieve. Within a relatively brief span of geological time, flowering plants diversified into the hundreds of thousands of species we see today, filling every terrestrial habitat from tropical rainforests to Arctic tundra. Charles Darwin called the rapid rise of flowering plants an abominable mystery because their fossil record blooms seemingly overnight. Flowers changed everything. The world before them was a quieter, grayer place. Many flowers have ultraviolet patterns invisible to humans, but visible to bees. When you look at a sunflower or a daisy, you see solid yellow or white petals, but if you could perceive ultraviolet light the way bees do, you would discover dramatic bullseye patterns, stripes, and landing guides that direct pollinators straight to the nectar and pollen hidden at the flower's center. These ultraviolet patterns are painted in pigments that absorb ultraviolet wavelengths, creating contrast visible to insects, but entirely hidden from human vision. Different species display different patterns, and individual flowers can modify their ultraviolet guides as they age, signaling to pollinators whether they still have rewards to offer or have already been visited. This hidden language reveals that flowers communicate in a spectrum beyond our perception, conducting conversations in colors we cannot name. What seems plain to us is signage to bees. Flowers shout in frequencies we cannot hear. Some flowers can heat themselves to attract cold-blooded pollinators. Certain plants, including many in the arum family, generate metabolic heat within their floral structures, raising temperatures significantly above the surrounding air and creating warm refuges that attract cold-blooded beetles, flies, and other pollinators seeking a place to thermoregulate. The skunk cabbage of temperate wetlands can maintain its flower temperature above freezing even while snow blankets the ground around it, melting a circle through the white surface as it blooms earlier than almost any other plant. This heat also volatilizes scent molecules, spreading the flower's fragrance more effectively to summon pollinators from greater distances. Producing such warmth costs enormous energy, burning stored starches in a metabolic surge that rivals the heat output of small mammals, yet the reproductive reward evidently justifies the expense. Some flowers offer warmth, not nectar. A beetle enters seeking comfort and leaves carrying pollen. The corpse flower produces a smell of rotting flesh to attract flies. In the rainforests of Sumatra grows a plant called the corpse flower, or Amorphophallus titanum, which produces the largest unbranched flower structure in the world, and when it blooms, releases a stench of decaying meat so powerful it can be detected from considerable distance. This foul perfume is not an accident but an adaptation, evolved to lure carrion flies and beetles that normally seek rotting animal carcasses in which to lay their eggs. And when these insects enter the flower searching for flesh, they inadvertently pick up pollen and carry it to the next corpse flower they visit. The bloom lasts only a day or two, and the plant may wait a decade between flowering events. making each stench-filled night a rare spectacle eagerly awaited by botanists worldwide. Beauty is not the only strategy. Rot has its own appeal. Orchids are the largest family of flowering plants, with over 28,000 species. With more than 28,000 described species spread across every continent except Antarctica, orchids form the largest family of flowering plants on Earth, outnumbering even the grasses and composites that dominate meadows and roadsides. This extraordinary diversity includes tiny flowers smaller than a fingernail and giant spikes that tower overhead, species that grow in tropical canopies, alpine meadows, temperate forests, and even underground where they never see light. Orchids have evolved partnerships with specific pollinators so finely tuned that some species rely on a single insect that exists nowhere else, and this specialization has driven the endless proliferation of forms and colors that orchid collectors prize. Their seeds are dust-like particles that scatter by the millions, yet each requires a fungal partner to germinate, adding another layer of biological dependency to their survival. Orchids exemplify evolution's creativity. They have become living examples of variation without limit. Some orchids trick insects into pollinating them by mimicking female insects. Among the strangest strategies in the floral world, certain orchids produce flowers that closely resemble female wasps, bees, or flies, complete with fuzzy textures, seductive colors, and pheromone-like scents that lure amorous male insects into attempting to mate with the flower. This behavior, called pseudocopulation, is not voluntary on the insect's part. Each male is genuinely deceived into believing he has found a mate, and in his confused attempts at courtship, he picks up pollen sacs that stick to his body and transfer to the next fraudulent flower he visits. The deception is so convincing that scientists studying these relationships initially struggled to believe a plant could replicate an insect so precisely without any nervous system to guide its design. Natural selection shaped each petal, hair, and chemical attractant over millions of years until the mimicry became nearly perfect. These orchids seduce with lies. Deception is their way of life. A single orchid pod can contain millions of seeds. Unlike most plants whose seeds are packaged with nutrient reserves to sustain the embryo during germination, orchid seeds are tiny specks of genetic potential, little more than embryos wrapped in thin, papery coats, so small and so numerous that a single seed pod can hold millions of them waiting to be scattered on the wind. This reproductive strategy trades quality for quantity, betting that among the millions of seeds released, at least a few will land in places where specific fungal partners exist to nourish them through their early development. Without these fungal allies, orchid seeds cannot grow, which explains both their astronomical numbers and their dependence on precise ecological conditions for survival. This dust-like progeny drifts invisibly through forests and across oceans, colonizing distant niches wherever luck aligns with opportunity. Orchids reproduce by scattering hope. Millions perish for each one that takes root. The smallest flower in the world belongs to the watermeal plant and is smaller than a pinhead. Floating on quiet ponds across much of the world, watermeal is an aquatic plant so tiny that its entire body, leaves, stems, and flowers included, measures less than a millimeter across, making its bloom the smallest flower ever measured by science. These minute green specks often go unnoticed by even keen observers because they resemble grains of green dust on the water's surface. Yet each speck is a complete flowering plant capable of reproduction and photosynthesis. The flowers themselves are so simplified that they consist of little more than a single stamen or pistil, lacking the elaborate petals and structures we associate with botanical beauty, yet they fulfill the same reproductive function as any rose or lily. Watermeal proves that flowers need not be large to be successful. The smallest can thrive where the grandest cannot. From the intimate world of flowers, we follow the journey of pollen. Pollen grains carry the male genetic material of flowering plants. Each pollen grain is a microscopic capsule containing the sperm cells of a flowering plant, encased within a tough outer wall sculpted into patterns so distinctive that botanists can identify species from a single grain under the microscope. When pollen reaches a compatible flower, it germinates and grows a tiny tube down into the pistil, delivering its genetic cargo to the ovule where fertilization occurs and seeds begin to form. This journey from anther to stigma may span only a few millimeters or may cover continents, depending on whether the pollen is carried by insects crawling from flower to flower or by winds blowing across entire landscapes. Pollen is the traveling half of plant reproduction, a fleet of microscopic emissaries carrying parental identity through air, fur, or feather. Every fruit you have ever tasted began with a grain of pollen finding its mark. Seeds are born from dust. Some pollen grains can travel thousands of kilometers on the wind. Scientists have found pollen from mainland trees accumulating on ships in the middle of the Atlantic, on ice cores in Greenland, and on isolated islands where the source species has never grown, demonstrating that pollen routinely travels thousands of kilometers on prevailing winds, carried aloft by thermal currents and deposited far from any parent plant. This long-distance dispersal explains how certain tree species recolonized entire continents after the last ice age, spreading northward faster than seeds alone could account for, as pollen drifting ahead prepared distant populations for gene flow long before the trees themselves arrived. The sheer volume of pollen released by wind-pollinated species ensures that even if most grains fall locally, a small fraction catches uplift currents and embarks on intercontinental journeys. Pollen knows no borders. Air currents carry futures to distant lands. Bees carry an electric charge that helps pollen jump onto their bodies. As a bee flies through the air, friction builds up a positive electric charge on its fuzzy body, while flowers hovering close to the negatively charged ground maintain a slight negative charge on their petals and anthers. When the bee lands on a flower, pollen grains leap across the electric field between flower and insect, jumping onto the bee's hairs, as if drawn by invisible magnets, a phenomenon scientists have only recently measured and documented using sensitive instruments. This electrostatic attraction supplements mechanical contact, ensuring more pollen transfers during each visit than touch alone would accomplish. The effect is subtle, yet the additional pollen means more seeds, more flowers, and ultimately more bees in future generations, making electricity an unrecognized partner in pollination. Bees collect more than nectar. They harvest by invisible charge. A single bee colony can pollinate 300 million flowers per day. A healthy honeybee colony contains tens of thousands of workers, each capable of visiting over 1,000 flowers in a single foraging trip. And when you multiply these individual efforts across the population, the collective pollination capacity reaches astonishing figures, with estimates suggesting that one colony can service up to 300 million flower visits during peak bloom periods. This staggering productivity explains why beekeepers transport hives to orchards each spring, renting their colonies to farmers who depend on these insects to pollinate almond groves, apple orchards, and berry fields that would otherwise produce little fruit. Without managed hives, modern agriculture would struggle to feed the world's population, and wild bee populations would face impossible demands. Bees are the engines of abundance. 300 million flowers touched because of one hive's industry. Without pollinators, 1/3 of the food crops we eat would fail. When scientists calculate the contribution of animal pollinators to global agriculture, They find that roughly 1/3 of all food crops depend on bees, butterflies, birds, bats, or other creatures to move pollen between plants, including many of the fruits, vegetables, nuts, and oilseeds that make human diets nutritious and varied. Without these pollinators, apples would become scarce, coffee production would plummet, chocolate would vanish, and countless other foods would either disappear entirely or decline so dramatically in yield that prices would soar beyond ordinary reach. The economic value of pollination services runs into hundreds of billions of dollars annually, yet most of it is provided for free by wild insects whose populations are now declining due to habitat loss, pesticides, and disease. We eat what pollinators make possible. A world without them is a world of hunger. Bats are essential pollinators for over 500 plant species. While bees dominate daylight pollination, the night shift belongs to bats, whose long tongues and hovering flight make them indispensable pollinators for over 500 species of tropical plants, including agaves, bananas, mangoes, and the saguaro cactus, whose white flowers open only after dark. These nocturnal visitors navigate by echolocation and are drawn to flowers that produce strong nighttime scents and copious nectar hidden inside pale tubular blooms that reflect moonlight. Without bats, entire ecosystems would lose key reproductive links, agave-based tequila production would suffer, and the giant saguaro cacti that define desert skylines might fail to set fruit. Conservation of bat populations is therefore not just about protecting an unusual mammal, but about preserving the botanical webs that depend on them. Night holds its own gardens. Bats are their silent caretakers. Hummingbirds pollinate flowers by hovering and dipping their long beaks inside. In the Americas, jewel-colored hummingbirds hover on wings that beat up to 80 times per second, their slender beaks perfectly shaped to reach nectar hidden deep inside tubular flowers that no insect tongue can access. As a hummingbird feeds, its forehead brushes against anthers dusted with pollen, which then transfers to the next bloom visited seconds later, making these tiny birds among the most efficient pollinators for the specialized flowers that depend on them. The flowers themselves have co-evolved with hummingbirds over millions of years, developing red and orange colors that birds see vividly but bees largely ignore, along with nectar compositions calibrated to hummingbird metabolisms. This relationship is so precise that some tropical orchids bloom only when their partner hummingbird species arrives on its annual migration. Wings that blur are the bridge between flowers. The bird drinks, and generations follow. Some plants are pollinated by raindrops, splashing pollen from flower to flower. In environments where insects are scarce or unreliable, certain plants have evolved to use rain itself as their pollinator, arranging their flowers so that falling droplets splash pollen from anthers into cup-shaped structures that direct it toward receptive stigmas nearby. This mechanism, called rain pollination or ombrophily, is rare but has evolved independently in several unrelated plant families, suggesting that water transport is a viable backup when animal vectors fail. The splashing action must be precisely calibrated. Too gentle and the pollen does not move, too violent and it washes away entirely, so rain-pollinated flowers often grow in sheltered spots where droplets fall at predictable, moderate force. Such plants marry their reproduction to the rhythms of weather, trusting the sky to carry their genetic hopes from flower to flower. Rain becomes a matchmaker. The storm itself brings new life. And when pollination succeeds, seeds begin their patient wait. Seeds can remain dormant for centuries, waiting for the right conditions. Within the protective coat of a seed lies an embryo suspended in time, its metabolism nearly halted, its water content reduced to a fraction of normal, capable of remaining alive, yet inactive for decades, centuries, or even millennia, until the right combination of moisture, temperature, and light triggers germination. This dormancy is not a failure to grow, but a survival strategy, allowing seeds to outlast droughts, floods, ice ages, and fires while waiting for conditions that favor the seedling's success. Scientists have revived seeds stored in herbarium collections for over 100 years, and ancient seeds discovered in archaeological sites have sometimes sprung to life when given water and warmth. This patience transforms seeds into time travelers, carrying genetic information across eras that would kill any active organism. Seeds sleep through history. When they wake, the past blooms again. A 2,000-year-old date palm seed was successfully germinated in Israel. In the early 2000 years of our era, scientists at a research center in Israel planted a date palm seed recovered from the ruins of Masada, the ancient fortress where Jewish rebels made their last stand against Rome. And to their astonishment, the seed germinated, producing a healthy palm they named Methuselah after the long-lived patriarch of the Hebrew Scriptures. This seed had lain dormant for roughly 2,000 years, surviving in the arid climate that preserves organic matter so well, and its genetic analysis revealed it belonged to a variety of date palm that had gone extinct in the wild. The success of this germination opened possibilities for reviving other lost varieties from archaeological sites, turning ancient seeds into botanical time capsules that might restore ecosystems vanished for millennia. One seed carried a civilization's taste. History grew again from the dust. Some seeds require fire to trigger germination. In fire-prone ecosystems like the Australian bush and South African fynbos, certain plants produce seeds with coats so tough that only the heat of a passing wildfire can crack them open, and chemical compounds in the smoke stimulate germination hormones that would otherwise remain inactive indefinitely. These fire-adapted species have turned catastrophe into opportunity, timing their reproduction to exploit the nutrient-rich ash, open sunlight, and reduced competition that follow a blaze. Seeds may wait beneath the soil for decades without germinating, but when flames sweep through and temperatures spike, thousands of seeds respond simultaneously, carpeting the scorched ground with seedlings within weeks of the fire's passage. This strategy ensures renewal where destruction seems absolute and transforms wildfire from an enemy into a partner. Out of ashes, green returns. Fire is the gardener of certain forests. Let the idea of dormant seeds remind you that rest is its own kind of preparation. You are gathering strength in stillness, just as they do. The largest seed in the world is the coco de mer, weighing up to 18 kilograms. On the islands of the Seychelles in the Indian Ocean grows a palm whose seed can weigh up to 18 kilograms, making it by far the heaviest seed on Earth, so large and heavy that it sinks rather than floats and cannot drift across the sea to colonize new shores. This coco de mer seed is shaped in a way that for centuries stirred the imagination of sailors who found them washed ashore without knowing their origin, leading to myths of trees growing beneath the waves. The palm that produces these giants grows slowly, taking decades to mature and several years to develop each fruit, and because of its limited range and slow reproduction, the species is now endangered. Such extravagant investment in each offspring contrasts starkly with plants that scatter millions of tiny seeds. The coco de mer bets everything on a few. Each seed is a small fortune. The smallest seeds belong to orchids and weigh less than a microgram. At the opposite extreme from the coco de mer, orchid seeds are so tiny that millions together weigh less than a single gram, each one a dust-like speck containing little more than a minimal embryo wrapped in a delicate papery coat, without any nutrient reserves to fuel early growth. This minuscule size allows orchid seeds to drift on the faintest breeze, traveling vast distances before settling in places where compatible fungal partners may help them germinate. since without these symbiotic fungi orchid seeds cannot grow at all. The gamble is stark: produce astronomical numbers of nearly helpless offspring and trust that a few will land where conditions align, rather than producing a handful of robust seeds equipped to survive independently. Orchids scatter hope by the billion, most vanish, but the survivors colonize the world. Coconuts can float across oceans and germinate on distant shores. The coconut palm owes its pantropical distribution to a simple trick. Its fruit floats, buoyed by a thick fibrous husk that keeps the inner seed high and dry as currents carry it across open ocean for months, until it washes ashore on a distant beach where it may take root and grow. This capacity for oceanic dispersal allowed coconuts to colonize remote islands long before humans arrived, establishing themselves wherever tropical temperatures and sandy soils welcomed them. The seed inside is protected by a rock-hard shell and nourished by sweet water and rich white flesh that sustains the embryo until roots anchor into unfamiliar sand. Coconuts are among the world's great botanical travelers, needing no wings or feet, only patience and the endless movement of tides. The ocean carries them. Patience completes the journey. Maple seeds spin like helicopters to travel farther from the parent tree. When autumn winds shake the branches of a maple, thousands of winged seeds, called samaras, spiral down in graceful arcs, their papery blades generating lift that slows their descent and allows breezes to carry them far from the shadow of the parent tree, where sunlight and resources are already claimed. This spinning flight, technically called autorotation, is the same principle that keeps a helicopter aloft, though maples evolved it millions of years before any human engineer drew the first rotor blade. The shape of the samara creates a stable vortex that maximizes hang time, and subtle variations in wing angle among species determine whether the seed glides gently nearby or soars away on a gust. Maple seeds are little engineers of escape. Every autumn, they helicopter toward horizons their parent will never see. Some seeds are dispersed by animals who eat the fruit and deposit the seeds elsewhere. Many plants wrap their seeds inside sweet, colorful fruits that attract hungry animals, relying on birds, mammals, and even fish to swallow the fruit whole and later deposit the indigestible seeds elsewhere in a package of nutrient-rich dung. This relationship benefits both parties. The animal receives an energy-rich meal, and the plant gains dispersal to locations it could never reach by wind or water alone, often with a starter dose of fertilizer to help the seedling establish. Some seeds actually require passage through an animal gut to germinate, their hard coats softened by digestive acids in a way that no other process can replicate. The partnership is ancient, shaping both plant distributions and animal diets across every continent. Seeds travel inside stomachs. They emerge ready to grow. Squirrels forget where they bury thousands of acorns, accidentally planting forests. Every autumn, squirrels busily gather acorns and bury them in thousands of scattered caches, intending to retrieve each hoard during the lean winter months. Yet their memories are imperfect, and studies suggest they fail to recover up to 70% of what they hide. These forgotten acorns lie undisturbed beneath leaves and soil, sheltered from drying sun and hungry birds, until spring moisture and warmth trigger germination and a new oak seedling pushes through the earth. Over centuries, this forgetfulness has planted entire forests, spreading oak genotypes across landscapes far beyond what wind dispersal alone could achieve. The squirrel believes it is saving food. The tree has turned the squirrel into an unwitting gardener. Neither partner fully understands the exchange, yet both benefit enormously. Memory lapses shape landscapes. The forest grows from what the squirrel forgot. The humble fruit is a plant's generous offering to the world. Fruits are the ripened ovaries of flowering plants. In botanical terms, A fruit is not simply something sweet you eat for dessert. It is the mature ovary of a flower, the structure that develops after pollination to enclose and protect the developing seeds until they are ready for dispersal. This definition includes obvious fruits like apples and oranges, but also pods, nuts, grains, and even the achene of a sunflower, all of which develop from ovary tissue surrounding fertilized ovules. The flesh we find so delicious in peaches or grapes evolved as a bribe to animals, rewarding them for eating the fruit and carrying seeds away from the parent plant. But the fundamental structure is always the same: an ovary transformed by hormones and sugars into a vessel for the next generation. Fruits are wombs remade. Every seed rides inside its mother's final gift. Botanically, tomatoes, cucumbers, and peppers are all fruits. When you slice a tomato for a salad, you are cutting into a fruit by every botanical definition, because it develops from the ovary of a flower and contains seeds embedded in fleshy tissue, even though culinary tradition and legal trade classifications have labeled it a vegetable for over a century. Cucumbers, peppers, aubergines, and squashes all share this status: fruits by science, yet vegetables by kitchen convention. The confusion arises because we use the word fruit colloquially to mean something sweet eaten for dessert, while botany uses it to describe a specific reproductive structure regardless of taste. Knowing this transforms how you see a grocery shelf: rows of fruits masquerading as vegetables because our language has not caught up with biology. Botany draws different lines. The tomato cares nothing for our categories. Strawberries are not true berries, but bananas are. Botanical definitions often overturn everyday assumptions, and nowhere is this clearer than in the classification of berries, because a true berry is defined as a fleshy fruit developing from a single ovary and containing seeds embedded directly in its flesh, which excludes strawberries but includes bananas, grapes, tomatoes, and even watermelons. The strawberry's red surface is actually an enlarged receptacle, and the tiny seeds dotting its skin are each separate fruits called achenes, making the whole structure technically an accessory fruit rather than a true berry. Meanwhile, the banana, peeled and eaten without a thought to botany, fits every criterion perfectly: a fleshy fruit from a single ovary with seeds embedded inside, though centuries of cultivation have rendered those seeds nearly invisible. Our language betrays our botanical ignorance. Berries are not what we think they are. A fig is actually an inside-out flower filled with tiny fruits. When you bite into a fig, you are consuming not a fruit in the simple sense, but a syconium, a fleshy structure formed when the flower's receptacle folded inward to create a hollow chamber, with hundreds of tiny true fruits lining its interior walls. Each of those crunchy bits you chew is a separate seed enclosed in its own fruit, all hidden inside what appears from the outside to be a single soft globe. Pollination occurs when tiny fig wasps crawl through a narrow opening at the bottom of the syconium, fertilizing the internal flowers before dying inside. This intimate partnership has persisted for over 60 million years, making figs and fig wasps one of the oldest and most specialized pollination relationships on Earth. The fig is a garden turned inside out. Its flowers hide within, waiting. Pineapples are clusters of up to 200 individual fruits fused together. The pineapple you slice on a summer afternoon is not a single fruit, but a multiple fruit, formed when the individual flowers of an inflorescence each develop into small fruits that fuse together as they mature, creating one large mass of sweet flesh dotted with the remnants of each original flower visible as the scales on its surface. Up to 200 separate fruitlets can merge into a single pineapple, their walls pressing together until no boundary remains, united by shared growth and coordinated ripening triggered by the plant's hormones. The central core that resists your knife is the stem around which all those flowers once clustered, still tough, because it was built to support their collective weight. A pineapple is a crowd made one, 200 fruits holding hands beneath the skin. Some fruits explode to scatter their seeds at speeds over 70 meters per second. While many plants rely on wind, water, or animals to disperse their seeds, certain species have evolved ballistic mechanisms that fling seeds away with explosive force, including the squirting cucumber, whose ripe fruit ruptures with such violence that seeds shoot out at speeds exceeding 70 meters per second. This acceleration rivals that of some bullets, launching seeds dozens of meters from the parent plant and ensuring colonization of new territory without any dependence on external carriers. The energy for such explosions builds slowly as fruit tissues dry and shrink, storing tension in cell walls until a trigger point releases everything in a fraction of a second. Plants cannot move, yet they have invented projectiles. Some seeds begin their journey as tiny missiles. The sandbox tree is called the dynamite tree because its fruit explodes so loudly. In the tropical forests of Central and South America grows a tree whose trunk is covered in sharp spines and whose pumpkin-shaped fruit explodes with a bang loud enough to startle anyone nearby, earning it the nickname dynamite tree among locals who have long known to give it wide berth. When the fruit matures and dries in the sun, internal pressures build until the thick segments burst apart with explosive force, hurling seeds at high velocity for distances of up to 40 meters or more. Each explosion launches between 5 and 17 flat, disc-shaped seeds, and the sound resembles a small firecracker going off in the forest canopy. The sandbox tree has weaponized reproduction. Its seeds travel on a shockwave of sound and fury. Within the plant, hormones direct every growth and change. Plants produce hormones that control their growth and responses to the environment. Although they have no nervous system, plants coordinate complex behaviors through a suite of chemical messengers called phytohormones, which travel through plant tissues to regulate growth patterns, flowering times, fruit ripening, and responses to light, gravity, drought, and attack by pests. These hormones include auxins, gibberellins, cytokinins, abscisic acid, and ethylene, each playing distinct roles in orchestrating the plant's life from seed germination to senescence. A seedling bends toward a window because auxin accumulates on the shaded side, stimulating cells there to elongate more than those on the lit side, a simple response governed entirely by hormone gradients rather than any conscious decision. Plants think in chemistry, issuing commands molecule by molecule. Hormones are their language of instruction. Auxin is a hormone that makes plants bend toward light. When sunlight strikes a seedling from one direction, the hormone auxin migrates to the shaded side of the stem, where it stimulates cells to elongate more rapidly than those on the illuminated side, causing the stem to curve gradually toward the light source in a behavior called phototropism. This elegant mechanism requires no brain, no eyes, and no conscious intention. It operates through chemistry alone, with auxin concentrations serving as the decision maker. Charles Darwin was among the first to suspect that some influence traveled from the tip of a seedling downward to control bending, and later scientists identified auxin as that mysterious signal. Every houseplant leaning toward a window demonstrates this process, reaching without thought toward the energy it needs. Auxin gives direction. Light becomes a destination plants pursue. Ethylene gas causes fruit to ripen and leaves to fall. Unlike animals that use nerve impulses to coordinate rapid changes, plants rely on gases that diffuse through their tissues, and among the most influential is ethylene, a simple 2-carbon molecule that triggers fruit ripening, flower wilting, and the autumn abscission of leaves. When ethylene reaches receptive cells in a tomato, It activates genes that soften cell walls, convert starches to sugars, and shift colors from green to red, transforming an inedible fruit into sweet nourishment within days. The same hormone instructs leaves to seal off their attachment points and drop to the ground when shortening days signal approaching winter. Ethylene is unique among plant hormones because it is a gas able to escape into the air and influence neighboring fruits, which explains why a ripe apple placed beside green tomatoes speeds their ripening. Chemistry spreads through the air. A single molecule changes everything. One ripe banana can trigger a whole bowl of fruit to ripen faster. If you place a ripe banana beside unripe avocados, pears, or tomatoes, ethylene gas escaping from the banana will accelerate their ripening dramatically, because all climacteric fruits respond to this airborne hormone regardless of whether it comes from their own tissues or a neighbor's. This phenomenon explains why fruit sellers keep unripe stock separate from ripe, and why a single overripe banana can ruin an entire shipment if enclosed in the same container. Home cooks have exploited this chemistry for generations, placing a ripe apple in a paper bag with green peaches to hasten their readiness for eating. The effect is invisible but powerful, a chemical conversation happening silently among fruits that share the same bowl. Ripeness is contagious. One banana whispers and the others obey. Gibberellins are hormones that can make plants grow extraordinarily tall. Another class of plant hormones called gibberellins promotes stem elongation, seed germination, and flowering. And when scientists discovered them in the early 20th century, they found that abnormally high levels could make plants grow to twice their normal height. Japanese researchers first identified gibberellins while studying a fungal disease called foolish seedling disease, in which rice plants infected with the fungus grew tall and spindly before collapsing, and they realized the fungus was producing a growth hormone the rice could not regulate. Today, gibberellins are applied in agriculture to increase grape size, delay citrus ripening, and produce seedless fruits, turning a fungal toxin into a commercial tool. Height in plants is not fixed by genetics alone, but negotiated through hormones. Gibberellins tell stems the sky is the only limit. Plants can measure the length of night to know when to flower. Many plants bloom only at specific times of year, not because they sense warming temperatures, but because they measure the duration of uninterrupted darkness each night and compare it to an internal threshold, triggering flowering hormones when nights grow long enough in autumn or short enough in spring. This remarkable ability allows plants to synchronize reproduction with seasons, ensuring that flowers open when pollinators are active and seeds mature when conditions favor germination. Scientists demonstrated this by interrupting long nights with brief flashes of light, which reset the plant's internal clock and prevented flowering even when total darkness hours were sufficient. The plant counts hours of darkness with molecular precision, converting time into chemistry and chemistry into flowers. Night is not merely absence of light. It is a measurement plants make with care. This ability to measure darkness is called photoperiodism. Botanists named this response photoperiodism, literally meaning light period sensing, and it governs not only flowering, but also bud dormancy, tuber formation, and leaf drop in countless species across temperate and tropical climates. Short-day plants like chrysanthemums flower when nights exceed a critical length, while long-day plants like spinach bloom only when nights are brief, and day-neutral plants ignore darkness duration altogether. The molecular machinery behind photoperiodism involves photoreceptors called phytochromes, which detect red and far-red light, combined with an internal circadian clock that tracks the passage of hours since dusk. Together, these systems allow plants to know not just whether it is light or dark, but how long each phase has lasted, information more reliable than temperature for predicting seasonal change. Photoperiodism is timekeeping without clocks. Plants read the calendar in wavelengths of light. And plants do not merely grow, they sense and respond to their world. Plants can sense touch and respond within seconds. We tend to think of plants as passive, but many species react to touch with startling speed, recoiling their leaves, folding their tendrils, or altering their growth patterns within seconds of physical contact. The sensitive plant, Mimosa pudica, famously collapses its feathery leaves within moments of being brushed, a response driven by rapid changes in water pressure inside specialized cells called pulvini that act like tiny hydraulic hinges. This touch sensitivity, called thigmotropism, helps climbing vines find supports to grasp, alerts insectivorous plants to prey, and may protect foliage from herbivores by making it appear wilted and unappealing. Touch triggers electrical signals that travel through plant tissues much faster than chemical hormones can diffuse, hinting at a rudimentary communication system beneath the stillness we perceive. Plants feel contact. They respond before we notice. The Venus flytrap can snap shut in less than 1/10 of a second. Among the fastest movements in the plant kingdom, the Venus flytrap closes its two-lobed trap around prey in approximately 100 milliseconds, a feat achieved without muscles or nerves through a clever combination of hydraulics and stored elastic energy in the leaf's curved structure. When an insect touches trigger hairs inside the trap twice, within about 20 seconds, electrical signals travel across the leaf, initiating a rapid change in water pressure that causes the trap to snap from convex to concave and imprison the victim. This speed is essential because any escape would waste the plant's investment of energy in producing and resetting the trap, which can only close a limited number of times before dying. Venus flytraps live in nutrient-poor bogs where insect protein supplements scarce nitrogen. Speed makes survival possible. Plants attacked by insects release chemicals that warn neighboring plants. When caterpillars begin chewing on a leaf, the damaged tissue releases volatile organic compounds into the air, and neighboring plants detecting these airborne signals respond by ramping up their own defensive chemistry before the herbivores arrive. This communication was long dismissed as impossible, but careful experiments have confirmed that undamaged plants exposed to volatiles from wounded neighbors increase production of toxins and digestibility-reducing compounds, even though no insect has touched them. The signaling molecules include methyl jasmonate, green leaf volatiles, and terpenoids, each carrying information about the type and severity of attack, allowing listeners to tailor their defenses accordingly. This chemical conversation transforms a forest into a network defense system where the first victim warns the rest. Plants speak through the air. Danger travels faster than the insects themselves. Some plants can call for help by releasing scents that attract predators of their attackers. Beyond merely defending themselves or warning neighbors, some plants under attack release specific volatile compounds that summon the natural enemies of whatever herbivore is chewing on them, recruiting parasitic wasps, predatory mites, or insect-eating birds to eliminate the threat. Corn plants infested with caterpillars, for example, emit a chemical signal that attracts wasps that lay their eggs inside the caterpillars, killing the pests from within as the wasp larvae develop. This three-way relationship has evolved over millions of years, with plants, herbivores, and predators locked in an escalating chemical arms race that shapes the ecology of entire landscapes. The plant cannot run or fight, but it can call for allies using a language inscribed in molecules. Scent becomes a distress signal. Help arrives on the wing. Trees can increase their defenses when they detect the chemicals released by damaged neighbors. When a tree senses volatile signals drifting from a wounded neighbor, it may begin synthesizing defensive compounds even though its own leaves remain untouched, preparing for an attack that has not yet come, but is statistically likely given the proximity of feeding insects. Studies on willows, poplars, and many other species have demonstrated this phenomenon, showing that trees primed by their neighbors' distress signals suffer less damage when insects finally arrive because their chemical fortifications are already in place. This eavesdropping strategy costs energy that might otherwise go toward growth, so trees appear to calibrate their responses based on the intensity and frequency of signals they detect. The forest is a vigilant community. Warning travels on currents we cannot see. As you rest, know that the plants around you are sensing the world too, in their own quiet way. Let your body feel as rooted and calm as a tree at night. Plants can hear, responding differently to the sounds of different pollinators. Recent experiments have demonstrated that plants can detect airborne vibrations in ways that influence their behavior, responding differently to the sounds of different insects even before those insects land. Evening primrose flowers, for example, increase their nectar sugar concentration within minutes of detecting bee wing frequencies, sweetening their offering just as a potential pollinator approaches. The mechanism appears to involve the flower petals themselves acting as acoustic receivers, vibrating in response to specific sound frequencies and triggering chemical changes within. While plants lack ears or nervous systems in any animal sense, they have evolved sensitivity to vibrations that carry meaningful information about their environment. This capacity challenges our assumptions about what it means to sense the world, suggesting that hearing is possible without ears. Plants listen through petals. Sound shapes their chemistry. Some flowers increase nectar production when they sense bee wing vibrations. Building on the discovery that plants respond to sound, researchers found that certain flowers not only detect the buzz of approaching bees, but actively increase their nectar sugar content in response, readying a sweeter reward precisely when a pollinator is near enough to benefit. This response occurs within just a few minutes of exposure to bee frequency vibrations, far too quickly to involve changes in gene expression, suggesting that plants have preloaded biochemical pathways ready to trigger the moment they hear the right signal. The advantage is clear. A flower that sweetens its nectar only when pollinators are present wastes less energy on sugar production during quiet hours and attracts more visits when it matters most. This behavior raises profound questions about plant awareness. Nectar flows on demand. The buzz calls forth the sweetness. Plants know up from down, even in complete darkness. No matter how a seed is planted or how a pot is turned, roots always grow downward, and shoots always grow upward, a behavior that requires the plant to sense gravity continuously and adjust its growth direction accordingly. This gravitropic response relies on specialized cells containing starch-filled granules called statoliths, which settle to the lowest point of the cell and trigger signaling cascades that redirect auxin hormones to stimulate growth toward or away from the gravitational pull. Even in total darkness, where no light cue exists, plants maintain their orientation, demonstrating that gravity sensing operates independently of vision and is available from the first moments of germination onward. This internal compass ensures that roots reach water and minerals while shoots reach air and light. Plants always know where down is. The Earth's pull guides every growing tip. Climbing vines can sense nearby structures before touching them. The tendrils of climbing plants like peas and grapevines have been observed to reach toward supports before making physical contact, suggesting that they somehow detect the presence of nearby objects and direct their growth accordingly. Scientists believe this ability involves the sensing of far-red light, reflected off surrounding surfaces, combined with humidity gradients and possibly even volatile chemicals released by potential supports. Once a tendril contacts a support, it coils around it within minutes, driven by differential cell growth on opposite sides of the tendril, but the preceding search behavior hints at something more sophisticated than random exploration. Vines appear to grope purposefully toward what they need, extending toward poles and wires as if they have intentions. The tendril reaches before it touches. Some knowing precedes contact. From sensing to adapting, plants have conquered almost every environment. Plants grow on every continent, including Antarctica. From steaming tropical jungles to the frozen margins of Antarctica, where two native flowering species cling to life during brief summer thaws, plants have colonized virtually every environment Earth offers, adapting to extremes of heat, cold, drought, salinity, and altitude that would kill most other organisms. Antarctic hairgrass and Antarctic pearlwort survive months of darkness, freezing temperatures, and desiccating winds by entering deep dormancy and reawakening when conditions briefly favor growth. At the other extreme, certain desert mosses photosynthesize within moments of a rare fog, and alpine cushion plants hug rocks above the tree line where no warmth lingers past noon. This global distribution reveals plants as the ultimate survival artists, reshaping their physiology to match whatever challenges each habitat presents. Green life persists everywhere. No corner of the earth is beyond its reach. Cacti store water in their thick stems and have modified their leaves into spines. In the world's driest deserts, cacti thrive by storing water in their swollen stems, which can expand like accordions after rare rains and contract slowly during droughts, sometimes holding enough moisture to survive years without a single drop of rain. Their leaves have evolved into spines that serve multiple purposes, shading the stem's surface to reduce evaporation, deterring thirsty animals seeking the water inside, and channeling dew droplets toward the roots below. The photosynthesis that other plants perform in leaves happens instead in the green stem tissue, which opens its stomata only at night to minimize water loss when cooler temperatures reduce evaporation. This comprehensive redesign of plant architecture has allowed cacti to dominate landscapes too harsh for almost any competitor. The cactus drinks once and remembers for years. Spines guard what rain bestowed. Some desert plants can survive losing 90% of their water content. While most plants experience irreversible damage when they lose even a modest fraction of their water, certain resurrection plants possess the remarkable ability to desiccate almost completely, shriveling into brown, lifeless-looking husks that revive within hours of receiving moisture. Species like Selaginella lepidophylla, the rose of Jericho, roll into dry balls during droughts and unfurl green and photosynthesizing when rains return, repeating this cycle again and again across decades. The secret lies in specialized sugars and proteins that protect cell membranes from collapse during dehydration, allowing the plant to enter a state of suspended animation rather than death. This ability to pause life and resume it later blurs the boundary between living and non-living. Some plants cannot die from thirst. They simply wait. Mangroves filter salt from seawater and thrive where few other plants can survive. Along tropical coastlines where rivers meet the sea, mangrove forests stand in salty tidal waters that would poison most plants, filtering salt from the water they absorb or excreting it through specialized glands on their leaves. Some species exclude salt at the root membrane, while others accumulate it in old leaves they later shed, ridding their tissues of toxins before damage accumulates. Mangrove roots rise above the waterlogged mud to breathe air through structures called pneumatophores, solving the problem of oxygen-deprived soils that drown ordinary trees. These coastal forests provide nursery habitat for countless fish species, buffer shorelines against storm surges, and store immense quantities of carbon in their waterlogged soils. Mangroves thrive where others cannot. They have made the margin between land and sea into a home. Carnivorous plants evolved in nutrient-poor soils and get minerals by eating insects. In bogs, sandy heaths, and other habitats where soil nutrients are scarce or locked away, carnivorous plants have evolved traps that capture and digest insects, absorbing nitrogen and phosphorus from their prey to supplement what their roots cannot provide. Venus flytraps, sundews, pitcher plants, and bladderworts have each evolved different trapping mechanisms independently, demonstrating that animal consumption offers such a strong survival advantage in these environments that evolution has invented it over and over again. The enzymes these plants produce to break down insect bodies are remarkably similar to those in animal digestive systems, an example of convergent evolution at the molecular level. Carnivory in plants is not predatory ambition, but nutritional necessity. Where soil starves them, insects feed them. There are over 600 species of carnivorous plants worldwide. Scientists have identified more than 600 species of carnivorous plants distributed across nearly every continent, each one adapted to trap and digest animal prey using mechanisms ranging from sticky leaves and pitfall traps to suction bladders that vacuum tiny crustaceans from pond water in milliseconds. New species continue to be discovered in remote tropical mountains and isolated peat bogs, suggesting the true diversity may be even greater than current counts indicate. Some are tiny rosettes no larger than a coin, while others, like the giant pitcher plants of Borneo, produce traps large enough to drown rats and small lizards. This variety demonstrates that the evolutionary pressure to supplement nutrient-poor soil is strong enough to shape remarkably diverse solutions. Carnivory is widespread among plants. 600 species have learned to hunt. And through all of history, plants have shaped human civilization. Wheat, rice, and maize feed most of the human population. 3 grass species transformed into staple crops, wheat, rice, and maize together, provide over half of all calories consumed by humanity, underpinning civilizations from ancient Mesopotamia to modern megacities and feeding billions of people every single day. These grains store energy-dense starches in their seeds, compact nutrition that can be harvested, stored, and transported across continents without spoiling, enabling settled agriculture and the growth of complex societies. Without these plants, the human population could not have expanded to its current scale, and the cities, libraries, and technologies we take for granted would never have emerged. Each grain carries the botanical foundation of human history. Civilizations sprouted from seeds. We are a species fed by grass. Nearly 70,000 plant species are used in traditional medicine. Long before pharmaceutical laboratories synthesized pills in sterile factories, human societies relied on plants for healing. And today researchers count nearly 70,000 species used in traditional medicine systems spanning every inhabited continent. Willows provided salicylic acid, the precursor to aspirin. Foxgloves yielded digitalis for failing hearts, and Pacific yew trees gave us Taxol for cancer treatment, each discovery beginning with ancient knowledge refined by modern science. This botanical pharmacy represents only a fraction of what remains unstudied, with thousands of plant species disappearing each decade before their medicinal properties can be assessed. Every forest harbors chemical secrets that may never be decoded. Plants have healed us for millennia. Their pharmacies remain largely unopened. Plants provide us with oxygen, food, shelter, medicine, and the air that carries your breath into sleep. As we close this gentle exploration, consider how profoundly your life depends on plants. The oxygen filling your lungs was exhaled by a leaf somewhere on Earth. The food nourishing your cells was grown from soil and sunlight. The wooden beams above your head were once living trunks, and the medicines that have treated your ailments often trace back to botanical sources. Even the cotton fibers in your pillow and the paper in your books began as plant tissue transformed by human craft. Without plants, there would be no complex life on land, no agriculture, no cities, no civilization as we know it. Tonight, as your breath slows and your thoughts drift, know that you are part of a living system held together by green. Plants sustain everything. You rest within their care. And so our gentle journey through the world of botany draws quietly to a close. We have wandered from the first mosses that crept onto ancient shores to the vast underground networks where trees share their secrets. We have watched leaves breathe, followed pollen on the wind, and marveled at seeds that waited millennia for their moment to grow. From the silent patience of roots to the quiet explosions of ripening fruit, the plant kingdom has revealed itself as a world of wonders hiding in plain sight. If these gentle explorations have brought you peace, consider leaving a like or subscribing to join our growing community of curious dreamers. There are more wonders waiting in the nights ahead. Share this moment with someone who might need a peaceful place to rest. Right now, as you lie here, the plants around you continue their invisible work. The leaves on your windowsill are breathing in time with the darkness. Somewhere nearby, roots are reaching deeper into the earth. Your own body carries molecules that were once part of leaves and stems and ancient forests, cycling through life after life. Let your eyes close if they have not already. Feel your breath settle into a slow, easy rhythm, like sap rising in the quiet hours before dawn. Let your shoulders release any tension they have been holding. Let your jaw soften. Let your hands rest open and still. You have nothing to carry now, nothing to do, nowhere to be but here. Tonight, as you rest, the botanical world continues its patient work. Seeds are stirring in dark soil, roots are drinking from hidden streams, leaves are turning starlight into tomorrow's air, trees are whispering through their underground networks. You are a small, warm presence within this vast green world, peacefully resting among the wonders. Sleep well, sweet dreams, and may you carry with you the quiet knowledge that you are never alone, that right now, countless plants are breathing alongside you, keeping the world alive while you rest. This has been Drowsy Discovery. Good night.